Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Straight Outta Prison podcast. My name is James K. Jones, and this is my story.
And this is Haley Jones, and this is his story that has now become a part of my story.
Wow, this episode is, besides meeting Jesus and having my life transformed, this was the greatest of all, in my opinion.
Because we are going to the chapel and we're
about to get married.
Yes. So, lots of people have gotten married, that are listening to this podcast.
Absolutely.
So, it is a very exciting time.
It is, and it was, for me, it was, I was still in the midst of chaos with finances and all that stuff, and it was a time of, panic, just trying to figure all that stuff out. And then, but at the same time, I was just feeling so guilty about...
About what?
Because your mom was, paying for everything. Everything was over the top and extra, and...
I didn't feel guilty about that.
I know you kept telling me that. You kept saying, they've always had a budget put aside for my wedding.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah.
I think I didn't feel... and I don't know why you feel guilty, because, it's traditional that the wife or the bride's parents pay for the wedding, and the groom's parents pay for the rehearsal dinner. Yeah.
So it was,
but yeah, and I just, cause we had, my whole life I knew okay, when we get married, my parents, well, not my whole life, but I just knew they had put money aside, and I know that my mom, too, found a lot of joy. See, this is why I hate that you felt bad, because...
Oh, she loved it. No,
it was almost like it gave her something, especially so soon after losing my dad. It was less than a year.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of to a really joyous, big thing in life that was happening that was happy.
And she went all out. She did. She pulled out all the stops.
She did. My mom's hilarious. Well, okay, so she's on the disc, if you know about that, she's a DS. Mm-hmm. Which means she's a dominant personality, but she's also a stabilizer. Yeah. So my mom was actually brilliant, and she must have honed this after years with my dad, and just in general, she was super subtle, but if she wanted to get something done, she gonna get it done.
But she wasn't aggressive.
Not in an aggressive way at all.
She would just sit back and be like, okay, we'll just wait this out.
Slowly but surely.
She was good at, your mom was great at playing the long game.
Yes, she was. She was.
Just keep doing the thing and say the things, but we're going to get there.
Before you knew it, a lot of people say, I don't even know what just happened.
I remember when we went to Florida to plan our wedding, we were taking your dad's car to somebody. I don't remember. But we were driving two cars.
Oh, she wanted to gift my dad's car to some of their best friends who she knew needed a car. So we were driving that car to give to them.
Yeah. And so we were in separate cars. And we stopped to get gas. And I was driving your mom's car and you were driving your dad's car. And you were fumbling with the gas tank or something like that. And your mom said, Haley's always been like Mr. McGee. She's always just on the edge of disaster. Just something's always about to explode and blow up, but it never does. And the Lord has always had his hand on Haley. And I didn't know what she was talking about. I was like, what are you talking about? Because I didn't see that side of you. I didn't understand that.
Right.
And little did I know, she was 100% right, but we really didn't know each other.
Well, you have to explain that, when I'm I know what she meant, and she's right. Yeah. But also, I know that the disaster never happens. So
yeah, it's true. And now, after almost 10 years into being married to you, it is... You just are doing your thing, and...
Well, I guess it's that I'm not afraid to put myself out there. I'm not my dad used to always say the phrase for me was, shoot, aim,
ready.
Shoot, aim, ready.
So true.
So with that comes a lot of
This could happen, but then it never seems to happen.
There's a lot of repositioning myself, which I'm able to do quickly. I think that's why.
And now it's kind of exciting to watch because, I don't even worry about you anymore. I used to be so worried our first couple of years of being married. And I remember one time you disappeared. You didn't disappear, but I couldn't get you on the phone. And we had watched the Dateline the night before of somebody getting tied up with duct tape. Put into a trunk. And I was in a full-on panic, and I called your mom. And she said, she just ain't answering her phone. She'll be fine, sweet boy. And, of course, you were. You were walking around Target or something.
Yeah.
But it just fascinates me that we really did not know each other when we got married. But
we knew enough to want to get married.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, everything was there. All the things that needed to make that happen were there. But we didn't have a long engagement. So.
I think there's pros and cons to that because, I've known people that are engaged or know each other or date or whatever for like years and years because you're like, I just really need to know. I just really need to know. And then they get married. But then how we did it was just like you said, we didn't know each other, but I don't know. I just think we knew that
this was what we're supposed to do.
This was it. And it was exciting. And we knew we were going to figure it out along the way without being a threat of
I was always worried about long engagements just for the whole, because we were committed to following Jesus and not having sex, so we got married. So, I mean, that is awkward.
Sex situation.
Yeah, I mean, to have to wait all the time. And
especially at our age.
Yeah.
I mean...
Okay.
Call you the 40-year-old virgin, but you weren't a virgin, but
I was
guess you were a new virgin.
Yeah. I had a lot of backup, but
a lot of backup.
Oh, never mind. Let's move on. It was just it had been a while. But during this
he got distracted. He has a hard time getting back.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's just move forward.
I can see, y'all can't see this that are listening, but I can see his like little wheels turning, like all these like pictures flashing in his head.
Yeah, we need to switch gears.
Okay, go ahead.
So leading up to that, my situation with my business was still a disaster. And it seemed like it was getting worse every day. Like I couldn't catch up. It was I had trimmed my staff down to 5 or 6 people, was trying to make payments on this debt, and just a regular operating cost for a restaurant. It's a lot of overhead.
Yeah.
And with some friends of yours that planned our wedding shower, and you were so excited about it. I think it was like Easter weekend or some kind of holiday.
Yeah.
And you were very excited for me to meet your Aunt Nora, your dad's sister.
Yes.
She was coming in, and I just couldn't be okay. I was in a panic trying to figure things out, and I didn't know what I was like. What am I going to do? I can't seem to even make payroll. It was a disaster. I'll never forget. I need to quit saying I'll never forget. But it was the reception thing, or what was it? Shower?
Yeah, the wedding shower.
It was on a Sunday, and that Friday, Denise and I were going over the books at Kairos, and we just couldn't. It was like we were running on fumes and just trying to figure it out. And I had like this, I don't know if it was like a moment with Jesus where I realized just how excited you were and how this would be the only time we would ever get to experience this. Mm-hmm. The lead up to our wedding and the wedding shower and all that stuff. And he said, I want you to forget about everything for the rest of this weekend. And if you can't do it for yourself, do it for Haley, and don't ruin this for her. And you'll meet me on the porch Monday morning, because that was where I used to do my Jesus time, on the porch with my coffee and smoking cigarettes. I'm sorry, that'll blow some religious mind.
Because you could, because Jesus still loves you even though you smoke cigarettes.
Yeah. But, it was a nasty habit. I'm glad I got rid of it. But I don't think that affects that. That's
anyway, go
my
ahead.
Opinion. No, it's not a lot of people's opinion. But he said, you can meet me on the porch Monday morning and I will show you what to do. And that's what I did. And it was hard, but that was a neat little...
And I appreciate that. That is because I think I was oblivious to how heavy all that was for you.
Well, you're not a worrier. I'm a worrier.
Yeah.
Like when it's time to deal with stuff, I get anxiety and I just need to get it fixed, or I need to have a plan, or I need to have something. And I didn't have anything. I was just walking on water almost.
And I'm just thinking about this now that I've never really connected this or thought about it, I guess, till right now. Or maybe I have, but I forgot. But like I was working for my dad up until the time that he passed away. And then I worked for him, we became State Farm corporate employees after that. And until they got a new agent in his State Farm agency. And then the agent, then had to offer whoever was working there a job for us to continue.
To stay there.
He did offer me a job, but I decided that I did not want to. I worked for my dad, and ironically, the one thing I didn't want to do was work for my dad. And then when someone else come in, I'm like, I only wanted to work for my dad.
Yeah. He was stepping into his office. You couldn't.
Well, yeah. There was just a lot of things we had going, and it was all centered around like kind of he and I's passion for like even leadership and stuff we're doing, which is neat.
So your passion wasn't for insurance. Your passion was for working with your dad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I didn't take that job. And at that time, and we haven't talked about this, I decided to start my coaching business.
Hey Ho.
Hey Ho International Incorporated, baby. And Hey Ho stands for my very first job, like teaching job in Sweden. They gave us an email, the first 2 letters of your first name, the first 2 letters of your last name.
That was your email
Mine
address?
was Hey Ho, Haley Hobart. And my friends in Sweden really loved that, and that became my nickname. So anytime I walked in, they're like, "Hey ho," and my dad loved that too. I mean, it was just a fun nickname I had, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that's what I named my coaching business, Hey Ho International.
So I had to come in and make the hoe a joke.
That was good. Okay. That was not planned. Anyway, so I had started my business coaching business. That's the thing. So, and that was very exciting, but also it was a startup. So it's not like I had a salary. It's not like I was making, a lot of money at all at that time. But I mean, going back to kind of my personality, I'm just like, I think I have always come up from a place of security with my parents, and I could start new things because I always like deep down, I'm like, oh, I have something to fall back on.
Yeah.
Like they're going to help me if I need help. Like there's no fear in anything. And so that's how I'm coming into it, even though you're climbing out like a mountain of debt.
A deep hole.
And I, have a business I just started. I'm making like not a lot of money. No perks, but I'm like, let's do it.
I mean, you were making some money.
I was making some money.
Clients.
Yeah, I was making some money, but just like the idea of, I mean, honestly, it didn't phase me zero to think like, we're getting married and I'm starting this and he's in $300,000 worth of debt. This is an awesome idea.
So we went to, the first thing we did that weekend was I met your Aunt Nora.
Yeah.
And Aunt Nora, if you're listening to this, don't get offended. We're just trying to tell a story. I love Aunt Nora. She's my Aunt Nora now. And, my kids love Aunt Nora.
No.
But my first meeting with her, she got on my nerves really bad.
And I do have to say, though, 98% of people get on your nerves the first time you meet them.
Well, this was a lot. This was a very lot. But now, understanding it in context now, her brother had just passed away.
Right, who they were very, very close.
Yeah, and their parents had passed away when they were teenagers, so she was, not a father figure, but definitely filled a role of stability for her.
Right.
And I think she felt a little outside because she lives in Florida, and she hadn't been involved in the meeting me in the process.
In the 3 months of us dating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can understand that now. But when we sat down with her at the Cracker Barrel in Garndale, when I met her, she started asking me questions like, I didn't like it. Like, who are you? I don't even, do you understand that we're already engaged? And it was just, it came across to me, it just bothered me.
See, and I feel like for me, this is like you have a little chip on your shoulder.
Well, no, it's humorous now.
And you're not empathetic.
True.
And that, I think, now you can see it.
Yeah, well, I didn't understand.
Moment, yeah.
Well, I didn't have a relationship with her. I didn't understand the depth of your relationship with her, the dynamics of her relationship with your dad. And now I can clearly see, like, she's 8 hours away and all this is happening and she's feeling left out.
Yeah.
But we got to the end of our lunch, and she told me, she gave me her blessing and her approval. And I was like, okay, you do realize we're already engaged and we're having we've already booked the venue and did everything. But by the end of that weekend, I had got over that. And Aunt Nora's a really special person, just anyways.
I would say next to my parents.
Yeah.
That she loves me more than...
Oh, and she does.
Like a mom.
But she's always, after that first meeting, she's always loved me like that too. So it's kind of neat to be accepted and brought in like that. But then, who was it that came that weekend? It was your ex-boyfriend's parents that came for the shower.
The Lugos?
Yes. And
I love the Lugos.
I know you do, but he got on the phone with me telling me that, Grant left her to me and I'm supposed to be her protector and all that stuff. And by this time, we were only like a month or so in after getting engaged. I was over that people telling me that, like I said, he couldn't have left her to everybody.
You just got to take it in stride.
I mean,
stride it out.
He didn't leave her to everybody. And I remember our first connection started off bumpy like that because it was the same thing. Like, you're her ex-boyfriend's dad? I mean, I don't know.
Well, they were best friends with my parents.
Okay, I don't think I realized that either.
Well, the thing too, and here's how that made me feel. Mm-hmm. It made me feel very loved. Oh. And it made me feel like just like a hole that was there with my dad. It just made me feel like people cared. And that was nice.
They did care.
I know.
But at the time, I was like, I wish I could find a different thing to say because he couldn't have left Haley to everybody. I mean, I got Jeff Dennis coming at me on social media. I got him, everybody. So that is a beautiful thing, though, that there's so many people that cared about you. But we got to our wedding shower, and that was pretty neat.
That was fun.
It was over the top. There was a ton of people there, I think.
Yeah, so we only had one shower, and we just invited everybody.
Yeah, it was like a party.
Yeah. So it was a party, like in the late afternoon, and we had food, and
you had an open bar.
It wasn't an open bar. There was like spiked punch.
There was a lot going on.
Or spiked lemonade or something.
I had never seen like a wedding shower beer like that. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was neat. But I noted the church that I went through at the time, Steve's church, they were teetotalers. They didn't drink anything. Like they didn't even let their grape juice sours. I mean, fruitcake. Like Aunt B or Andy Griffiths, she don't even allow fruitcake in the house got rum in it. But there was a guy that was that I went to church with who actually worked in prison, and I knew his background. He grew up very strict. They had just started wearing wedding rings. Like they didn't do nothing because they were into that, Anabaptist Mennonite stuff.
Right.
And there was a big thing of lemonade, and it said hard lemonade on it. And I noticed that he kept going back to get more lemonade.
He was like, this lemonade is good.
And I was just like, I think I should tell him, but then I don't want to offend him, and I don't know what happened because we had already had a thing. There was a thing with one of your friends that didn't believe in alcohol and had given some money.
Oh, she was a friend that was hosting the shower, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was, and this is a thing, I guess, from around here that we weren't used to and we didn't know.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't want to offend anybody. When she had offered, she wanted help with the shower, which thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But then she found out there was going to be some alcohol, and she wanted to make sure that none of the money she was contributing was buying any of the alcohol. So I actually didn't know this till later.
Yeah, that was because of her. I think I knew it on the front. I think Hobie told me.
Yeah.
Somebody told me. It was kind of humorous.
Yeah.
But then in the middle of the shower, Hobie was over there kind of bartending or, setting up things. And there was a guy that was on my board that was an older guy. I won't say his name because I don't want to embarrass him in case he's listening to this or anybody knows him. A lot of people in Birmingham know him. But his wife, she was probably close to 70. Mm-hmm. And the party was happening. And
I mean, you make it sound like this was not like a party going on. It was very like controlled and nice.
It was, but it was full of people. Everybody was talking. It was a lot of
you
activity.
had a percentage of the crowd that did not, one, expect the alcohol, and number two, maybe even know it was alcohol.
Yeah. But in the middle of all this, we're sitting there, and there was this loud clatter, blang, 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 blang. And
it silenced the room. It was a pretty big room.
She fell out of her chair. And I didn't really know Hobie at the time, but he looked over at us and he said, just for the record, she was drinking the hard lemonade. So it was so funny, but the guy was embarrassed and it was a thing, but it was fun.
She wasn't hurt, so it was funny.
No, but it was definitely, people didn't really know what hard lemonade meant, I don't think. We maybe should have said, this has got vodka in it. But it was a beautiful time. Your cousin Katie did little games and stuff with us. And
yeah, it was great, actually.
It was good stuff. So.
Okay, so we had our shower.
And then on Monday.
Oh, yeah, you were going to meet Jesus on the porch.
I did, and it was probably the most clearest thing that I've ever gotten.
So what did he tell you to do?
I actually woke up Monday morning and ran out on the porch. Like, okay, you told me. I'm keeping your word. I'm going to do what, but now it's time for you to help me out here. And he gave me a vision of a boat. And the boat had holes in it and it was sinking. And he said that the holes represented, like one was that my payroll was too high and the other one was some of my overhead was too high. And if I wanted the boat to float, then I had to fill up the holes. And I knew what that meant.
What did it mean?
I had to let Jeremy go because he had a high salary. And I wasn't even taking a salary. But he had been with me since the inception of Kairos and had worked with me the whole time. Had been expressing the last 2 years his dissatisfaction, how he didn't want to work there anyways. So it didn't seem too difficult to me to make that decision.
And I remember talking about this, and from a business perspective, it was very clear to me because here you have Jeremy, who's actually doing the same things that you are able to do.
Yeah, I didn't really need him at that point.
Right, exactly. And so it makes sense. I mean, just logically to me, you have someone that's doing everything you could do, and you could actually do it. Why do you have that person when you're bleeding out the back door? So,
well, we had reworked so many things. Like he had been the catering director. He did all the deliveries, all the things up until like 6 months before that when he was tired of doing it. So Denise started running the office and all the office work and doing the deliveries for the catering. So it was like basically I was paying him a huge salary just to be like a prep cook, and it didn't make any sense.
Right.
But I immediately went in. We got through lunch. I told him we need to talk, and I just laid everything out for him and showed him, these are the finances, and I can't pay you anymore. So we're going to have to do something different.
Did you give him a 2 week difference? 2 week. Did you give him a 2 week notice?
Oh, I didn't just fire him. Oh. I said, we'll figure out what's next, and we'll come up with a plan. But this is what's got to happen, or I'm going to go bankrupt. And he agreed with me. He understood, and I even sensed like some relief because he was tired. We were all tired. That Gardendale stuff almost killed us.
Right.
And the next thing I know, I went home and sent out an email to the board and, just let them know what I decided. And he sent back this passive aggressive like email, like attacking me and, James, this, that, and the other.
Give me an example of what.
Just like, James is trying to make all this seem nice, but basically he fired me because he said we're going to go bankrupt because he can't make enough money or something like that. And it was just it didn't really hurt my feelings. It kind of hardened my resolve. I was like, what, little boy, whatever. I mean, it was a difficult decision, but it was also a necessary decision. And the problem with us was at the time we were still friends, but I didn't expect him to like turn on me like that. I mean, I didn't like come in. I was offering like solutions, like maybe we can try to figure out something different. But obviously this is not working out, and your salary is too high for me to pay. And
the thing about this, and I know that I'm not objective. Yeah. I mean, and neither are you, but like the way I saw it at that time, I had fresh eyes on everything and could kind of see things a little differently than you were seeing them because I hadn't been in the Gardendale grind and, none of the stuff. And so for me, it was a little bit perplexing to me because you had never actually taken a salary for yourself. You were working your butt off, and he had always gotten paid really well. So it's like, it just felt very like, if it was truly like a smart business decision, which I don't think he understood because there was so much like relationship maybe intertwined in it. But it's just like, it is what it is. It's just like black and white. And sometimes, the money's not there to pay you. I mean, to me, this is not an emotional decision. This is a very logical, practical decision. And it stinks that it turned into such.
Well, it was what had to happen.
Drama, yeah.
And so the next day, he gave me his notice or something. I was like, I'm going to do this and this and this, and my last day is going to be the last day of March or something. And I'll never work here again. That includes when you're on your honeymoon. I will not help. So I was like, good. I mean, let's just part ways and be nice. But I felt like I needed to respect him as far as like giving him time to figure out what was next for him. And so he had like a month's notice. and he decided to start a lawn care business, which was something he did on the side that he loved doing. And the last day that he was on staff at Kairos, Denise Nolan, who was doing my social media at the time for Kairos, she did a big farewell and thank you to Jeremy and all the times, and was trying to help him out by advertising his business.
Right.
Because by that time we had 5,000 followers on our social media.
Yeah.
And just put his number, and he's starting this new business. He's calling it The Cut, which fit him.
Right.
And they got mad about it. He got mad about it, got offended, and
why?
Wanted to take that down. He said that we were trying to spin the truth. And I was like, what are you talking about? You're not telling them that you fired me.
Because you want us to say we can't afford to pay you?
I don't know. I didn't know. It was very awkward, but then coming back into this episode, we're preparing to get married. He was my best man. Had already been asked to be my best man at my wedding. So things got real awkward. And, Tanya, who's one of my best friends, she started having an attitude with me and with you. And it was just weird. And I remember I called Shauna up and was like, what is the deal? Just tell me what are their problem? What is the...
Right.
And she was like, well, he did all that work in Gardendale getting things ready. All the work he did in Gardendale. And I said, yeah, and he was getting a paycheck for that. While he was doing some of that stuff in Gardendale, getting that ready, I was doing his job. So it's not like he was doing things for free. I didn't like it. And then I remember Steve came in and was like, I need to talk to you. And he was trying to be real stern with me. And he said, I can't believe that you let Jeremy go without talking to me. And I said, why would I talk to you? You quit. You quit. You said that Jesus told you to quit, so stay quit. And he got red in his face and was like, I'm your mentor. I'm your this, that, and other. And I was like, well, you know what? You haven't really served me well during this season, so I don't feel bad that I didn't talk to you about
So
that.
This is where, this is one part of the story, and I wasn't, along for the ride. I know you've known them for years, when you're in prison, and they supported a lot. So much value in the relationships that you had for them, and I don't want to take away from that.
Yeah.
But my lens on the business side, and we've talked about that throughout this podcast. But I just listened to another podcast actually that talked about the business side and with friends and all that. And it can be difficult, but you have to, draw these boundaries and put everything on paper. And none of the things that are smart and wise to do when you're working with friends were done.
No.
And you could see the result of that on the back end. And in my opinion, I feel I don't think it was intentional on their part. I really don't. I think their intentions were pure. Mm-hmm. But from what I saw, it seemed like that you became kind of the puppet. I don't know if the muse is the right word, but you were just a landing pad for the response, or I don't know what I'm saying, but it just was a very unhealthy dynamic, and it became very enmeshed and very toxic.
Yes,
for everybody involved.
Yeah, it was bad.
And so when you started making decisions to, just for the financial sake to try to stay afloat, that didn't kind of go along with that toxic culture. It got very emotional and but I think that was the absolute best thing for you. And for Kairos.
No, that had to happen. I was relieved, and it was time to move on. But in the middle of this, we're planning a wedding.
Right.
And Steve is still my pastor. He was doing our premarital counseling. I was not super interested in what we needed to do with our wedding, except for the food. The food had to be over the top. And, we secured Chef Bob, who's my favorite chef.
And it was over the top.
Awesome. But they were involved in even that part of it because Steve was marrying us, and then Jeremy was my best man. And we had the worship team from Grace and Truth that was going to do some music at the beginning of the ceremony. So that became awkward because Shauna was the piano player. For the worship
she was.
And, we got everybody signed off on that. I had my friend Charlotte Guffin, who I met through the Foundry, that was going to sing. And it was just All good, all beautiful. Mm-hmm. But then at the last minute, Shauna called me like 2 weeks out and wanted to back out because she said, I just, I didn't have you at my wedding because I didn't want you there when I was marrying Brian. And I just hate it for Haley that your ex-girlfriend would be up there when you're getting married. And I was like, she don't care about that.
I mean, that speaks to like, I never like when people do this, ever. When people like make decisions for me, like how I feel about something. Or you like want to make a decision based on what you think I'm going to think because I'm going to let you know. Trust me. I would have let you know if I had a problem with that. I would have voiced that and it wouldn't happen. But I don't know why that irritated. I mean, I understand it, but it also feels a little bit like
it wasn't about
manipulative a little bit.
It was about her.
Yeah,
she didn't want to be there, and I felt like if you want to say that, say that. Say the thing.
Yeah, just I don't feel comfortable doing it. It doesn't have to be a big deal.
And that would have been the end of it. But she made it about you, so I said, you know what? Haley's marrying me. I'm marrying Haley, and you're married to Brian. So that's all water under the bridge in the past. Let's move on, nerd. It's time to go.
Boom, pow.
So, and then I reminded her, and I catered your wedding. So, you can use your talents and play the piano at mine.
In this situation, I do feel like this is where both of our dominant personalities flare up, which can be offensive to some people.
How so?
I don't know. We're just like, I didn't want you. I would tell you. Like, I think we both have a tendency to like... buck up like
all the things that I had on my plate leading up to that wedding. The last thing I was thinking about was who's going to play the piano.
Right.
Like that wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
I was still trying to figure out because we went the old school route where I didn't see your dress and we weren't going to see each other and all things. And I was trying to pick out the tuxedos and I was in anxiety because I didn't know if it would match. So finally I got your mom to help me, which worked out.
Yeah.
Should have did that from the start. But that was the last thing I was thinking about. But I thought that was humorous.
Yeah.
And then after our shower, she actually gave us a gift of some oven mitts. And it was a little like puppet.
Should we say this?
Yes,
now?
It was so funny. It was like a bride and a groom, but an oven mitt, like all dressed up.
But they were like fat people.
They were oven mitts.
I know, but like it was like. Yeah, it's hard to explain. They were like characters.
It looked like her. That was like, because she likes stuffed animals and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I remember when we were opening our stuff, your mom was there, and you opened those up, and you started laughing, and you held them up to Mom Lou, and you said, Mom, this is a gift from James's ex. This is the one that he thought was the one. And that was just so
I know
funny.
that was mean, but it was funny.
It was funny. But to this day, we still have those oven mitts. I don't know why.
I thought that was going to be said just between us three. That's why I would say something that mean. But now we're putting on a podcast
It was
platform.
funny. It was funny. But Judah, our son, he is into puppets. And he's made those into his puppets. So that's part of his collection.
There you go.
It works out. But I had I was just feeling like I needed to contribute more than what I was doing. And your mom was saying that she would handle the rehearsal dinner because she knew I was struggling. And so I was like, no, we got to figure out something else to do. So we decided this was another thing, like over the top. Like, you were like, my mom rented a beach house for y'all to stay in when you're there.
Yeah.
And it's got like 4 bedrooms and you can have a bedroom for Jeremy and Steve. And I was like, no. Like, I can have my family stay with me, but I don't need all that extra pressure around. Like, we'll find them somewhere else to stay. But we decided to do the rehearsal dinner at the beach house. And then my staff was going to, Denise Nolan pretty much took that over. Mm-hmm. But I cooked all the food 2 or 3 days before and they just had to prepare it. So that was kind of fun.
That was neat. Yeah.
But by the time we got to the end of coming down there, Lord have mercy, I was so tired. I was exhausted.
We were working and again, I think it's to take into account all the emotional or mental stuff, maybe is a better word, that you're having to deal with the firing of Jeremy and just the Kairos, the money stuff, and then the wedding planning and the cooking all the food and all the stuff.
Very lot.
Yeah.
But then I remember when I was leaving the house, I couldn't just get in the car and go down there. Brandon was riding with me. I think he spent the night with me the night before. Then I had to go all the way to Bessemer to the foundry to pick up my mom and deal with all that drama. She's just trying to make everything all about me. What about me? I'm like, this is not about you. You just need to relax yourself and go have a good weekend with us. But I think that's the first time I ever snapped at you. You were calling me, and I was driving to Florida.
See, I don't even remember this.
I do, because I remember it hurt your feelings a little bit. I mean, I knew it. You didn't really say it, but I knew it.
Yeah.
But I was so tired and so just burned down, and it was something you needed me to do. And I said, don't add one more thing to me to do, because I'm not doing nothing else. Don't add one more. My back is going to break if you put one more, like, straw on it. What's that, the straw that broke the camel's back or whatever?
Well, now when you say that, I'm like, gosh, you say that a lot. Or you sound like that a lot.
Well, I do when I have a lot on me. Like, let's space
Which is a lot of the times,
let's
I feel like.
Space some things out a little bit. But on the way out, I was leaving my house, and there was a pink rose bush on the side of the house, and it was in full bloom. It was like those, it don't matter, just pink roses.
Yeah.
And I grabbed a mason jar and put some water in it, and just literally took me 10 seconds to snap some roses off and throw them in the mason jar. And when we got to Florida, you were like, you picked those for me? And I was like, yeah, it's not that big a deal. And she's like, with all the stuff and your tiredness and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I did that.
I love you, girl. Love you, girl. But I finally got some sleep that night and got caught up on rest, and we were ready for the next day.
I don't know why. It seems like when you're recounting this feels like very similar. Is it like how we're made or something? Because I feel like in the business now, I feel like it's like so much, and then we don't sleep because we're like working. It's like, oh, I need to get caught up. I'm like, what is that?
I think for me, it's a lack of maybe not planning, because I'm a big planner, but like I think that I can get more done in a day than I can.
You underestimate.
And then when I get on a deadline, it's like you just got to push through.
Yeah, y'all should see his to-do list. It's like his to-do list for a day would be my to-do list for a quarter, 3 months.
No.
I mean, your to-do list is always very, very...
Well, there's always so much to do. And it's the same now as it was like in the restaurant business. Some stuff gets put on you at the last minute. You don't know what's happening. But
and I don't help, because I'm like literally a flurry of ideas, and then we start with something, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, but we should do this because it's so good.
No, and y'all did that with the wedding stuff. I was just like, I can't take any more things.
Well, I'm kind of doing that now. I feel like you're letting me take it.
Well, it's good. That's how you're made. That's how you're wired. But I'm not wired like that, so we have to find a way to hold hands through the mess. So
the flowers. Super sweet. That was very touching, because I knew you were like stressed to the maximum.
It was refreshing to me. I was like, this girl that I'm finna marry, Jesus.
Finna marry.
She's all over the moon about some flowers I picked off a bush.
It was very sweet. It was very
free
thoughtful.
Flowers. You actually took those to the wedding and set them next to the cake.
I did. It was a neat little touch to him. Yeah.
But then I thought, okay, Mom Lou's probably spent $10,000 on all these flowers, and she's got these Alabama roses for my yard sitting on here, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But then the next day, we got ready for the rehearsal dinner, and I had a lot of anxiety when we were doing the rehearsal part, because, well, it started out with like Steve and Jeremy and all that, same stuff going on, and I had a schedule written out. I knew the times I was supposed to be there. We were supposed to arrive at the church at 4:30, so I had all my groomsmen except for Jeremy because he was traveling. And we get there, and Steve and Jeremy and, their whole family, because Steve's boys were the worship leaders. Mm-hmm. They were there, and Jeremy popped off at me. We've been here for an hour. And I said, well, if you would have read the thing, it said I was supposed to be at 4:30. It's 4:30, I'm here. So, and he was like, we expected that anyways. We expected that. So I was like, if I can get through this day and tomorrow without really just doing something to him, then I will be doing a good job and a service to humanity, because I don't know why I chose
service
him.
to humanity.
No, but I felt like he was supposed to be my best man, but he was mad at me. So why not just back out? Let me pick somebody else.
Which does stink because it's such a happy, exciting.
Yeah. And I mean, I had Brandon, and, you know, Brandon's going to make sure I have all the things I need.
And you had Tim.
Tim Busby, he was really my best man. I mean, even though he didn't get to have the title.
He didn't get to be next in line. Yeah.
He was so funny that you picked 4 people to be, and so I had to pick 4.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, don't make me the 4th man. And I was like, why does it matter? And he said, anything, no matter how many groomsmen you have, the first 3 and the best man, they stay in your life after. But after that, 4 and above, you never see those people again. So don't make me the 4th man. He was just in a panic about that. So
that's cute.
Terry was getting on my nerves with all the rules and the regulations and
but baby, you get these things get on your nerves no matter what.
It was a lot.
I feel like, of course, it was a lot. We were getting married. It was a wedding with hundreds of people coming.
Well, if you go back to our wedding video, she caught me laughing at her. And she was like, you might think this is funny, but this is serious business. We're, you know, but she was getting on Steve's nerves too.
Well,
because he don't like.
I would have responded like her if I was in her position.
Yeah. Well, Steve actually asked us not to have a wedding planner. So I said, I don't got nothing to do with that. I mean, you have to deal with Mom Lou on that.
My mom was like, whatever.
But then when we got up there, they were walking us through the ceremony, and I had a panic attack. Like, I was like, I don't know how to do all this stuff, that like all these movements and all this, stand here, turn, do this, do that. And Steve knew me very well, but he like pulled up on me and he said, are you thinking you need to remember all this? And I said, yeah, I'm trying. I feel like I need to take notes. And he said, that's my job. He said, you just walk out and I'll direct you.
That's nice, yeah.
So that took a lot of the pressure off.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we're going to rehearsal dinner, your mom rented a trolley. Talking about going over the top.
An actual trolley, yeah.
That was, you want to talk about the trolley?
Well, it was like this historic, like, trolley, right?
Yeah.
From, like, Defuniak Springs. And
that would go to the beach and back?
Yeah, and you would ride it. I don't know. I think she rented the whole thing.
But it was at the last minute.
For all the wedding party to travel from the church to the reception. Wait a minute, no.
To the rehearsal dinner.
To the rehearsal dinner, which was at the beach.
House.
Yeah. So.
But then it would take them back then, too.
Yeah.
But we had the best time on the trolley.
We did, yeah. Yeah.
We were singing songs.
We sang on the trolley, yeah. It was like open air. It was really, and it was beautiful weather.
It was kind of surreal, though.
Yeah, it was.
I feel like I'm at Disney World.
Yeah.
But I'm headed to my rehearsal dinner on the trolley. But then Denise Nolan, my catering manager, or my restaurant manager, she took over like the rehearsal dinner part. And when we got there, I couldn't believe what she had done to the beach house.
It looked amazing.
It was beautiful. Everything. The food was good. The wine was good.
Mm-hmm.
The beer was good. Everything was. It was just It was a great night. And then we had to like gather together and do the speeches.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I didn't like that part. Like,
you didn't?
I don't like being the center of attention where everybody's looking at me. And it was like, I felt like, okay, half the people in this room I know, the other half of them, I don't know these people.
Right.
And they're just looking at me. And I was meeting your cousins who were Joneses from Texas, and they were like, a cool name.
Yeah.
But then the speeches, I think the one that touched me the most was your Uncle Tommy, who I had met a couple months before, and I don't know, we had instantly connected. I really like your Uncle Tom. I love him now, but I didn't really know him then. But he was just so excited, and he got tears in his eyes, and he was like, you don't understand. It's not just you getting married. You're starting a family. You're going to be a family. And I was like, well, he's taking us down the road. But, you know, because he's already been there. He saw it. And, but then Jeremy gave his speech, and it was the most awkward. I was like trying to laugh it off, but I was like, I hate watching the video of that. Like, I wish I would have just told him to stay home.
Oh, stay home, babe.
I mean, he gave me 2 pieces of toast.
Yeah, because he was supposed to give a toast.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely, there was like a heaviness or...
He was mad at me.
Yeah.
But he couldn't say it, but it was coming across like...
resentful, even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But we got through that. And then I feel like Tim Busby came up and re-energized it.
Right.
His speech actually made me cry.
Yeah.
Because he was saying, I've been praying for you for years that you would find somebody that you could love.
Yeah.
Like I love my wife, Rachel.
Oh.
And it was good. And then, remember Katie's speech?
Yes.
It was very similar to what your mama told me.
Right.
That Haley's like Mr. Magoo. And she was like...
She didn't say Mr. Magoo.
She said, Haley is... If you know her, you'll know what this means. If you don't know her, don't try to figure it out. But, like, she's got it all together, and everything's falling apart at the same time.
She said, I've never known anyone that can, like, always look like, has everything together all the time, just, like, to the nines, but is simultaneously...
Everything's falling apart. And I didn't understand that either. I didn't understand what she was saying. But she was saying how when you were a teenager, because she spent the summers with y'all, and that you would wake up in the morning, put your hair in a bun, you would come bebopping down the stairs, and that your dad, I don't know why it's making me emotional, that your dad would say, oh my God, look at her. That's the look. And that some guy one day is going to be so lucky to have all that. And she was going on, and she was like, and James, you're that guy. And it was... That was,
yeah. And
I felt like it was, like, I didn't know your dad, but everybody was talking about him, and it was like he was with us. Like, I don't know. He was.
Yeah.
And then.
I'd forgotten about that. That is a neat, like, I do remember my dad was so good at, we've talked about he was a gusher.
He was the gusher.
But just like, man, whoever gets you, it's the wife jackpot, the DNA jackpot. He told me that for like years and years, and it was neat that Katie was able to like retell that, encapsulate that memory in that moment.
And so tell me I was and that's you.
Yeah, that was neat. Ooh, okay.
But then we went to sleep.
So the wedding's the next day, yeah, and it was, I don't remember what time it was. You probably remember.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. And yeah, it was surreal. So we stayed at the house that we had the rehearsal dinner at. It was a huge beach house.
Yeah.
And me and my mom and I don't even remember who, but like family members, whoever's in my wedding stayed there. So then the next morning we all got ready there. Yeah. And so that was just a really neat, special time. It was, if you've gotten married, Yeah. But then I know that let me see. I had already written my vows, but you wrote your vows that morning, didn't you?
Well, I was stressed, and I wanted, we did like traditional vows, and we had a part of our ceremony where we did our own vows, and I wanted them to be from the heart and from the Jesus. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find the time to relax to do it, so I was waiting until the morning of. And I had woke up that morning. I slept in a little bit because I wanted to be good and rested. And I was sitting on the deck writing my vows, and everybody, like Tim and Glennis and all my family, were like, you haven't written your vows? And I was like, no, I'm doing it now on purpose. Now leave me alone. But
now leave me alone. That's that harshness that flares up.
No, I just said, Jesus, what am I supposed to? And he gave me 3 words. You're supposed to love her, you're supposed to learn her, and you're supposed to lead her. And that was my vows that I wrote. There was a little bit of, it was a day, it was kind of a blurb. I remember your nephew, Jones, Abby's son, had escaped from his beach house, which was next door.
I forgot about that.
And he got up I found him on the steps, and he was looking for me, but he didn't have on any pants. He just had on a T-shirt. Was he like 3?
Yeah, something like that.
And that was neat. And just his name being Jones. Yeah. Jones McQuinn. That was neat. And I remember Abby saying, now when he grows up, he's going to think I named her after Haley. But that was a neat day. And then
I don't know if we mentioned that Jones was my mom's maiden name.
Yes.
Which is why they named him Jones. Yeah. So my mom went from a Jones to a Hobart, and I went from a Hobart to a Jones.
In the same church.
In the same church, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But they had made a schedule to where we were supposed to get there like 3 hours early, so we wouldn't see y'all get there. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm not getting there 3 hours early and being in a hot church in a tuxedo for 3 hours. So I pushed it up by like an hour. Yeah. Maybe 2. Because y'all were supposed to get there like 2:30 or something. And I said, they're not going to be on time anyways. Yeah. So why do I need to punish myself. Mm-hmm. And there was a big discussion among, because all the groomsmen were supposed to ride together.
Yeah.
And everybody had an opinion. And I said, well, this is what time I'm leaving. So that's when I'm going to leave. So I took my time getting ready. And then I think they didn't want to mess with me about it. Mm-hmm. But my Aunt Glennis was there. And, she's a challenger. She's a number 8 on the Enneagram.
Yeah.
And when I was taking my shower, I was trying to get shaved and everything I'm getting married. I'm trying to make it perfect. And she's like beating on the door. It's time to go. I was like, I'm not going until I said I was going. Now don't come back here messing with me again. So we got in a little bit of a back and forth. But we got there. It worked out the way I thought it was. Y'all wasn't there. Y'all was late. And I didn't have to walk around for 5 hours in a tuxedo in the heat of the day. So, I mean, it was fun getting ready, putting on our clothes, all things. Yeah. But then, getting the pictures taken. And then my mom, bless her heart.
So she got out of the foundry to come. Yeah. Or got a hall pass.
Yeah, but you could tell she was struggling.
Yeah.
About that because she didn't want to have to walk. What they had to do something. My mom and your mom. She had some job to do during the ceremony. Oh, they had to carry the cross down.
Oh, yeah. She literally had to carry the cross.
And just set it down. And she was so going. I was like, Mama, just set it down. It ain't even a big deal. It ain't even nothing to that. Want to talk about the cross thing?
Sure. Well, that was kind of neat because you got wood from, the big tornadoes that came through Alabama, Fultondale, and a couple other.
Tuscaloosa,
April 27th, 2011.
Yeah.
And that was right after my parents had moved to Birmingham or to Gardendale.
Yeah.
And so it was literally like 4 months after. And so my dad, being an insurance agent, went around to his insureds and was helping clean up. And and he's found all this wood, like this scrap wood from houses and whatever, like all different colors. And he ended up making this huge cross from the wood eventually, which was really neat.
Yeah.
And but when we were, at some point when we were engaged, I think.
Well, they were saying you can light a candle or you can pour a sand or you can pour bubbles.
Yeah.
We didn't like any of those ideas.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how we came up with the idea, but we were going to make a cross, like one of the parts of the cross had your family names on it, one of them had mine, and then we were going to put them together.
Yeah.
And I think that's when we realized it was the same day because
yes,
Jeremy actually built the cross thing for me because he's real good at that. But I think he built that before I fired him. But
anyway, my dad had dated the wood. He had put on the wood 4/27.
Yeah, 11.
And
that was our wedding day.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It was really neat. So James made, or I guess Jeremy made, these crosses that you can put together, the two pieces, and then some little piece to like put in the middle to keep them together.
Yeah.
With a verse that said,
the two shall become one.
Yeah, that. And so why are we talking about those? Oh, yeah.
Because your mom came in with her piece of wood with all your family names on it.
Yeah.
Sat it up there.
Oh, yeah.
And my mom had to bring mine up there and set it down.
Yeah.
And then
we had the middle piece to secure it.
Yeah.
During the ceremony.
There was like a part where we put it together.
So that's neat. We actually have that cross on our wall upstairs.
We do.
Let's talk about your face when they open the door.
Well, before that, I was struggling not to sweat because it was a little hot, and you got all them clothes on,
Yeah.
I just didn't want to be sweaty it was just to see you and for the pictures and all that stuff. And I hadn't seen you since the day before.
Yeah.
And there was like no contact. They had us separated. And the first thing that got me, there was a little room behind the altar where you could stand and watch what was going on. So I was like peeping out, seeing who was coming in, and there was a lot of people there. And my side, I knew all the people on my side, but I knew very few people on your side. It started out, they did the worship, all the things, but your mom was like classical musician.
Yeah, she was a musician, yeah.
But she was into like the classic, like the harp and the...
Well, I always wanted that. I always wanted like strings playing.
Yeah, so we had both.
Yeah.
So we had like a worship team, which was the Grace and Truth worship team with Charlotte Guffin singing all the songs. And then
a string quartet.
Yes, and that was like something you see on a movie. Like I was like, that is so neat. Like these people over there.
Yeah, they played by themselves actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were coming in.
But they were on the other side of the thing. Mm-hmm. But I was just kind of just taken with all that stuff. And then they did like 3 worship songs. So I thought, well, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm here doing this. But when the ceremony started, Steve like welcomed everybody. Everybody was getting settled down. And then he started singing. And I wish I had a video of my face when he started singing, because this was something he did during his church services. Like he would be like doing a sermon, and then he would just break out and start singing.
We're talking about a cappella.
Yeah. Well, he said he had the gift of singing. And I remember me and Brandon, it was just a private joke between me and Brandon. It was like, I wish he would keep his gift to himself sometime. But
you're mean.
I shouldn't say it like that, but it was just sometimes that's the kind of stuff gets annoying because you feel like you're trapped in a room and somebody's going to sing a song to you. But he started singing, and when he started singing, I looked at Brandon, and we both just busted out laughing, just like, why didn't we say not, Because
you could see my mom's face, too. I think in the video, she was just like,
okay.
He needs to stop now. This is a wedding.
Yeah. But then he did a thing that he does in almost every meeting I've ever seen him do, especially if it's formal, is to have everybody stand up and greet each other and tell them, welcome to James and Haley's wedding. And people didn't really care for that either, but it was neat. I mean, they broke into it a little bit, but it was...
There was a lot of things I would have done different. Like one, I would have not done 3 worship songs.
Oh, yeah, that's too long.
Like maybe 1 is good.
Too much, yeah.
And then, the singing. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And, I'm not into details, so I was just like, oh, he's officiating, so you do that.
Well, I was taken back to when we were planning the wedding, we told him to do whatever he wanted. We both said that.
Yeah.
So then on the other side, I was like, maybe we should have been a little more detailed.
Right.
But I know for a fact that somebody that got married right after that asked him not to sing.
Yeah.
But when they called us in, all I had to do was walk, take 10 steps and stand there and turn. Mm-hmm. And I was nervous. I was very nervous. I don't like being the center of people looking at me. I feel like I do fine, but if I feel like everybody's looking at me, I get awkward and I don't know what to do with my hands. And I had practiced, I was going to hold my hands together, and I think Terry was telling me how to stand. The doors opened up, and the girls started coming in. The music was beautiful. The first one I think that walked down was your cousin Katie, and she was just, eyes were locked on me. She was so excited, smiling at me. And then Val came through, your sister-in-law, Hubby's wife, and she's smiling at me. And she was actually pregnant with Sam at that time. And then your best childhood friend, Meredith, who I had not met, I don't think, up until that time, walked down the aisle. And all the ones that came before her stopped and smiled at me before they went and took their place. And she didn't even meet my eyes. And it was like, it made me feel like, oh, like something's wrong with me. Like, why didn't she look at me? Is there something I need to know? Like, my mind was playing all these scenarios.
Yeah.
But then Abby came in, she was doing she was smiling. And everybody was just beautiful. Everything was neat. And Jones and Emerson and Kelsey, they were just little bitty. They come running.
Those are my nieces and nephews, yeah.
They come walking down the aisle with this big banner that said, Uncle James, here comes your bride. And that was so cute, except Jones stopped. And he was like, I'm done with this in the middle. So Abby had to go get them. But then it opened up and Molly came in, your niece. Mm-hmm. And was she like 6 at the time? She was the flower girl.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
But she had broke her arm, so she was in a cast. But she had it decorated with ribbons. And she walks down and took her little job so serious, she dropped every petal. And then she got to me and she stopped and was standing in front of me. And I was like, what is happening? And everybody's still looking at me. And she's like digging in her cast, and it took her a minute, but she pulled out a note. And the note was from you. And it was really cute. And I was just... I don't know, just it was all the emotions.
Yeah.
So then they kept the door closed, and I'm waiting, and everybody's looking at me, and then this bell started ringing. It was like, dong.
It was the church bells, yeah.
Dong, but did like 4 times, and I almost passed out.
Because it was 4 o'clock.
I didn't know. Yeah. It was, but it wasn't like dong, 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 dong. It was like dong.
I mean, people have heard these church bells. They're very robust.
And long.
Yeah.
It was a long pause.
Clearly, this had an effect on him.
Everybody was looking at me, and I didn't understand what was happening. And I felt like I was.
What do you mean you didn't understand what was happening?
I didn't. If I would have been prepared for the long dings, like, okay, you're going to stand up there, they're going to ding these bells for 5 minutes, then I probably...
was not 5 minutes.
It seemed like 5 minutes.
It was not.
It was...
it was a couple seconds.
I almost passed out.
Okay.
I don't know. I was like, I don't know if it was fear or what.
Yeah.
I don't know what was happening. But then the doors popped open and there you were with your brother.
Mm-hmm.
And the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Oh, thank you, babe.
And then
you're making me emotional.
No, but then you were just smiling and cheesing, you know. Like,
hey.
But that made me feel better.
Yeah.
And I think Denise Nolan said that best. I was watching you. I was worried about you. But when you saw Haley, you just perked right back up. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Here you come.
Yeah.
Walking down the aisle, speaking to everybody.
Mm-hmm. No. I don't think I realized I was doing that until the video, but I was greeting everyone as I was walking down. Hey girl.
I like that. That's who you are.
Yeah.
But then my mom was bawling her eyes out, and then your mom started crying.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'd seen her get emotional to that very time.
Well, I think it's because, my dad was not there.
Yeah.
And that became very, highlighted in that moment.
And then like Hobie walking you down the aisle, and your Aunt Nora had made a post the day before about your dad, and she's just like, oh, brother, my brother, because he walked her down the aisle.
Yeah.
Because her dad was not there, had passed away. And so it was some similarities there.
Mm-hmm.
But she lightened that moment up that your dad, when he was walking her down the aisle to get married, he said, "Is this be a good time to talk to you about life insurance?"
That is hilarious. He did say that. And
that was good. But then, Hobie comes up there.
Yeah.
Her mother and I, who gives this woman all things, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "She mine now. We gotta go. We're about to get married." But then that was where it changed again, because we got up there. What did we stand up there for? I don't remember what all was happening, but Steve basically said, "Excuse me," and came around, and we're just standing up there, and he basically preached a sermon. And
it was a little longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm not going to lie.
It was long.
Yeah.
And I could, like, my family side of the face, I wasn't worried about that. They don't really get into those details, but I could see in your mom's face that this is going on too long. And people were like, "What's happening?" And then I looked over at you, and you had that look on your face. It was a big smile, but you were pissed, and I could tell.
Well, you say that. I mean, I wasn't. I was annoyed.
I had never seen you
I think I mumbled under my breath to you like, "Okay, it's time to get married."
You said, "I'm just ready to get married."
I'm just ready to get married.
And I was like, "Well, don't look at me. What are you going to do about it?" The women in my family, like my mom, in situations like that, anything was possible to happen. And again, I didn't fully know you like I know you now. But I got scared. Like, what's she fixing to do? Like, what's fixing to happen? And I looked over.
My family and my mom, like, you hold your place.
Oh, yeah. And I looked over at Abby, and
Keep your mouth shut.
Abby was smiling at me like, But that went on too long. And finally it was over. And he came up, and we did communion. That was when we read our vows to each other. But they didn't have bread for communion, remember?
Oh, yeah. They had to get...
No, your Uncle Julio has some Cuban crackers.
Oh, yeah. I love Cuban crackers. I was glad we had that.
But that was what we did communion with, but the crackers got too much in my mouth.
Well, it dries up your mouth. Cuban crackers do, if you've ever had any. But yeah, so that was one of the funniest part, actually. So we had the Cuban crackers for the bread for communion, and then we had actual wine. Mm-hmm. So we each had, like, you know how they do, like a glass, but it's just a sip, basically, or a couple sips, I guess.
Yeah.
And once we took communion, you could see
it wasn't enough to wash the crackers out of my mouth.
Still in your mouth, but if you're in the audience of the wedding, you don't really know that. Like, you don't know it's Cuban crackers.
What's happening?
You don't know they're so. And so James, all of a sudden, you can see in the video, like, he drinks all of his wine, and then he reaches over and takes my glass and literally, like, bottoms up on my glass of wine. It was hilarious.
Everybody was
the
laughing.
whole crowd started laughing, actually.
Well, but it was
like, I need another drink. I know, but it looked
like I needed a drink, but it wasn't that. I needed to wash the crackers out of my mouth. And he had handed me the microphone. It was my time to speak.
I was like, leave it at Yeah, that was another thing. It was right before you were supposed to say your own vows, and you reached over. You're like, and it did a bottoms up on my glass of wine. It was really funny.
My mouth was full of crackers. Like I
know
talk.
you feel like you need to say that, but no one knew that, and so everyone laughed. It was hilarious.
It was funny. It was good. But then we did the things, did the vows, and then that was another thing that annoyed me with Steve. Was like, don't look at me, look at her. You're marrying her. And I was like, why would I be marrying you? Like I don't know, just a little.
Well, I mean, honestly, those little irritants. It was like years of building up of just like these, so little things that if someone else said it, maybe wouldn't have bothered you, but I don't know. That makes sense to me. But.
Yeah. So then we did all the vows, said the I do's, kissed the bride. I gave you a good kiss, too.
You did. To this day, Lula calls it the wedding kiss because she's seen that video.
Yeah.
And she said, the kiss that people do when they get married.
What kiss
and I
is
said,
that?
what is kiss is that? And she always opens her mouth and goes, I'm like, okay, yeah. We'll keep calling that the wedding kiss. And
But we did the deed. They played the song, Something Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I know, Mr. Jones and Me.
Yeah.
Everybody started hollering when they started doing the Mr. Jones and Me thing.
Yeah, that was fun.
And
then we had an awesome party afterwards with the renovated country club.
That was fun.
Yeah, we had awesome food. We had these live stations. The one thing that was important to me with food was the oysters. So we had someone shucking raw oysters, which was so good. They were fresh off the coast from that morning, so it was perfect.
The food was amazing. Chef Bob.
The food was amazing.
He's my favorite chef in the whole world, and he really went over the top. With all the he did everything.
Yeah.
And there are still people that talk about. I was at a funeral a couple of weeks ago where they talked about he did this thing, watermelon rind with bacon wrapped around it. And I was like, man, that's been 8 years ago. You still remembering that? And they were like, oh, I remember all the food from your wedding.
Yeah, it was great.
So I was like, I don't really. It was kind of a blur.
Yeah.
Everything was so much flurry of activity and people and dances and words. And we waited too late to cut the cake, and the kids were going crazy, wanting to eat some cake. And
yeah, we danced. There was some great speeches. I guess the one that stood out to me was, which is hilarious, was my sister did her speech. And she said, and she had written it out, and she was kind of nervous about doing a speech because it's not really her thing to.
Yeah.
But she told the story, which I think we've already said the story, but it's funny that she uses in the speech, that when they were taking my dad back for his little procedure that we thought was not going to be a thing, but ended up being the last time.
Yeah.
We spoke to him, or my mom spoke to him, that he was joking around with the nurses, of course, and he was like, okay, Luann, come here. Give me one last kiss before they take me back.
With lots of tongue.
And I need lots of tongue. And, of course, everybody laughed. And my mom was like, and I did give him lots of tongue. It was funny, my mom saying that. But so Abby used that story in her speech and said, and James, I expect nothing less from you.
Yeah.
So it was great. It was lots of humor. It was good.
It was beautiful.
And, a nod to my dad, too, kind of bringing him in on that moment. So, and then the second one that stood out to me was my mom's. It's actually right before she prayed over the food, and she said, I've used this several times just talking to people, but also for us when we've struggled and fought, and it's been but she was so, and I actually have this on video, and she was praying before the meal, and she said, and Jesus, as we celebrate one of the greatest miracles you perform here on earth is when you take two people and you make them one. And I thought and you could tell it was just with all the kind of understanding with her experience and just the miracle it is when you take two people and join their lives and join, in every way, that it is a miracle. Because it is hard.
It is. It's a process.
But I always think of that and it is truly a miracle to be able to bring two people with two backgrounds, with two personalities, with two different everything. And you join lives and create a life together with kids. And to do that where there's an atmosphere of peace and joy and hope. I think that is the goal, I guess. So anyway, that prayer, it has stuck with me since then. So
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think the thing that probably stood out to me the most was when I was taking my hot clothes off and putting on my leaving clothes. I was in the men's room, and they had Terry and your mom, and I guess Jackie or whoever was helping, had really just went over the top with details on that space. And there was a candle burning in the men's room, and there was a picture of your dad. And I have that picture now. But it was a picture of Dad standing on the deck of the beach house that I'd stayed in. And it was like my first quiet time that day because there was so much activity and things going on. And it was, I don't know, I felt like he was in there with me. Just let me know, do good. It's my gift to you. It was weird, but it was a neat kind of weird.
Yeah.
And didn't fully understand it, but here we go.
Yeah. Okay, there's one more takeaway that I have to mention.
You going to talk about Nick Saban and the cutout with the Alabama groom's cake?
No, I don't care about that. I've moved on. It's way better than that. Yeah. And that is that your mom had never, so I took her to get her dress for the wedding.
Oh, gosh.
And so we got the dress, and then I talked to her. I educated her on Spanx.
Okay, now most men are not going to know what that means.
So it's just basically like a girdle, like a modern girdle, a very tight thing that you put on that sucks you in, keeps you like everything in place. And
see, I don't fully understand that. Why not just get a dress that's not so tight?
But it's intense to put this thing on. I mean, you have to work. Like it has, there's a process to it. I've been a fan of Spanx my whole life, quite frankly. I mean, I don't know how I got introduced to them, but I've been wearing them. I mean, I love them. It's a whole brand with an X at the end. Actually, she just sold the company for $1 billion, but sidetrack.
Wow.
Anyway, I introduced your mom to Spanx, and I was like, here's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to get these Spanx. I don't know how she got them on originally on the front end to actually get to the wedding.
Yeah.
But to hear the story, and I heard it later after the fact during the reception, that she went to the bathroom and she couldn't get the Spanx back on. So she had to, I think you're at Glennis and one other
it was my
family
Aunt
member
and my cousin Christina.
Were all in the stall.
Squeezing it
which
on
is not a large stall
yeah.
of the bathroom, trying to get these Spanx back up her legs and tummy. And it was, I think was it Glennis was just like,
this is a lot.
First-hand experience with her private part. I was on my knees pulling that thing up with all my might.
Wow.
Anyway,
I didn't hear about that till
hilarious.
later.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It was great.
It was a great night. Great day, great party. I think we succeeded in making it fun. We wanted it to be not stuffy. And
yeah.
Here we go.
So we're married now.
And we're riding off into the sunset.
And this complete.
Actually, it wasn't sunset. We're riding off into the dark with Mountain Dew cans.
Yeah.
Sparklers all
and
around
sparklers us. And headed to our honeymoon. And I think we've decided this is how we're ending this season. So this is a season finale.
This will be the season finale to season 4.
Yeah.
We fully intended for season 4 to be the last season of the Straight Outta Prison podcast. And I would be cool if we stopped with this. But we did some polling with our patrons and people that follow us. And so we're going to at least have to come back and do a season 5.
We're just going to kind of, in season 5, give you like highlighted kind of just like seasons that we've walked through since getting married and
like
with the
first
businesses
couple years of marriage,
yeah,
being parents,
the blood, the sweat, the tears, the business stuff, how that all came to be. So
yeah, but
it's going to be good.
Yeah, but we're not trying to like draw it out. Like I honestly thought that this whole podcast would be 10 episodes tops, and now we're like 65 episodes in.
Yeah,
so it's crazy.
Yeah,
it is. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. But we appreciate y'all.
We got plans for days, people.
Oh, yeah. A lot of good things coming.
Yeah. This has been fun, though. We just told our love story.
We did. And to this one, really,
well, the beginning of our love story.
Yeah. Well, we're married now. Now it's time to the rubber to meet the road and do the thing. But this is really just a testament for me to Jesus, because when I turned 40, if you go back, I forget which episode it is on here, in 2012, I was depressed, defeated, hopeless, thinking, I guess there's nothing else for me in this life.
Yeah.
And this all happened before I turned 41. So by the time I turned 41, I was married to someone that I loved who loved me. We had our first home, and little did I know, you were already growing Luann Jones in your belly.
Wait, when was I growing in my belly?
When I turned 41.
Oh, when you turned 41, yeah.
Because we didn't find out we were pregnant, so you were like 6 weeks pregnant before we knew.
In July, I think, or August, yeah.
But just the way things can turn around in an instant. Like, you never know. Just don't give up. Don't give in. Keep going. God is faithful.
Keep moving forward because, like you said, I think that's a key point there is that you just never know when things are going to turn around or shift or whatever needs to happen, to you feel like seasons never end or, you're struggling or just like, this is it. This is it. Like, I've ruined everything or I like that. It's not the case. And just to keep the, it sounds cheesy, but keep the hope alive.
Keep hope alive, keep going.
Yeah.
And for me, all my life, anything I'd ever achieved was because I worked for it.
Yeah.
And apart from Jesus himself, this was the greatest gift to me that I've ever experienced. But it was in such a weird season of my life where I couldn't work for it or deserve it or do anything. So it had to be pure gift. And that is how God works in our lives. He wants us to always be like that, like to receive everything as a gift. And because when you receive it as a gift, you didn't work for it. You ain't got possession, and changes your attitude, changes your heart, changes your life.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
That's good.
So this was good.
I have open hands to receive.
I love you, wife. I'm very thankful for you.
Thank you.
The gift of Haley Hobart Jones.
Well, I'm getting emotional.
All right,
guys.
But we'll see you in season 5.
Season 5.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for being a part of our story, guys.
Yes.
We love you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Written and produced by the Team Jones Company.
Yours truly, James and Haley Jones. If you like what you've heard, you can subscribe to all of our podcasts on Apple, Google, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeart, or really just about anywhere you enjoy listening to podcasts.
Most of you know about the Straight Outta Prison podcast, and we want you to know we've added 2 new platforms.
The For Real Reel, where we talk about real life, things you would never see on a highlight reel.
Things that might make you blush and might make you question some things that you never thought about. Unpack the week's hot button issues, current events.
Along with the weekly Jamesism and Haleyism. Now you have to tune in to find out what that means.
Tune in to find out what that means.
And Narrowing the Gap, where I'm sharing with Haley the lessons I learned in getting from where I was to where I was supposed to be.
Narrowing the Gap is a teaching companion to the Straight Outta Prison podcast, where he really digs into some of the profound lessons that he learned and had to walk out in his journey in prison and coming out of prison.
Or download the Patreon app and you can get all of our content early and ad-free. Straight Outta Prison podcast, the For Real Reel, and Narrowing the Gap.
Listen on Apple, Google, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.
Other ways you can support us is to like and share the episodes of the podcast, leave us a rating and a review,
and support our sponsors. They help us provide this platform for free.
Thank you guys for listening to the podcast.
And again, thank you guys for being a part of our story.
Anything out of these videos, please hit the like button, the subscribe. If you never want to miss a recipe or anything I do, hit the little bell and you'll get notifications.